It's a money fight, I get you, and you want to make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer/fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age who is a contender.
Announcement, another circus act, another clown show. A fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis has been announced as an exhibition.
That I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025 reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports.
It's a money fight. I get you. And you want to make money, but at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer/fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least. Jake Paul fight announcement. Another circus act, another clown show. A fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Tank Davis has been announced as an exhibition fight. A fight that I couldn't believe, that was too insane and honestly just baffling to think would be a real fight in 2025. Reminds you that combat sports are the craziest sports on the planet. Stephen A. Smith did not hold back on the announcement of the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Davis fight, calling it nothing short of a circus. He acknowledged Jake Paul's ability to promote himself and turn fights into spectacles, but stressed that boxing deserves better. According to him, Jake should at least face fighters who make sense as matchups rather than chasing shock value. For Smith, this fight highlights entertainment over true competition. I've always been a fan of Jake because I think that what Jake tries to do for the sport of boxing, I think people don't realize the importance of him being able to promote for himself and not being reliant on the promoters who I believe has held the sport hostage. The only critique I've ever given Jake, I just want Jake to fight boxers like Nate Diaz. We know his reputation. We know the man could fight. We know in the octagon he could be something special. But we know you breathe on him, he starts bleeding. It's a fair critique. And you know what? He should fight boxers. But then again, should he? Because I'll tell you why. If you're a human who can rake in $6 to $10 million fighting people that you know you're going to beat and you want to build a resume and a record that's impressive with a good highlight reel, you got to be strategic about this. A__A, Jake's 25, 26. He's got so much time. Yeah. But what I'm saying is I get where you're coming from. All I'm saying is we don't know your skill set because you haven't been in there with anybody really skilled. Analysts argue that Jake Paul's latest matchup is just another circus act in his boxing journey. They believe most of his fights lack any real logic or competitive balance. Often designed more for attention than sporting credibility. Instead of testing himself against opponents who make sense stylistically or in weight class, Jake continues choosing unusual fights. To many experts, this pattern makes his bouts entertaining spectacles, but not serious boxing contests. Performance. Jake Paul won the fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago Tank Davis was saying openly that he lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire as he was experienced extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is well, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly what, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best. So, there's a height disparity there of some 8 inches. Ring magazine tweeted the stunning news that has the boxing world buzzing. Breaking: Jake Paul will face Gervonta Tank Davis on November 14 at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. In an exhibition live on Netflix, sources confirmed to Mike Carpenter. Talks for Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Paul's last fight took place at 200 pounds, while Davis is a champion at 135. This unexpected matchup has fans debating size differences, entertainment value, and the surprising twist boxing continues to deliver. Jake Paul has been pushing his own agenda in boxing, determined to turn his wild goal into reality by investing his own money and creating buzz. He has managed to shake up the sport in ways few imagined. While many dismiss his approach as unorthodox, others see it as beneficial since his financial muscle brings attention and new audiences to boxing. This latest matchup, which nobody thought would ever happen, proves how far he's willing to go. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, trying to push toward his goal of ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So, it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight and okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. He'll go and he'll win the fight. Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever. But Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily. And then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua. And that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's __A, crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk. But a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years. So, it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice. And I don't think it was because Kopinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks and they were pretty public from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nikki Sabadirian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on I think Sky Sports talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it. And now Mike Chopinger says that the talks for Jake and Joshua fell apart over broadcasting issues. Later, Jake Paul also confirmed the fight through his Instagram, writing, size versus speed, power versus precision. One will rise and one will fall from Atlanta. Live globally only on Netflix Friday, November 14th. His post fueled even more excitement, making the exhibition a major talking point worldwide. Teddy Atlas, a highly respected voice in boxing, has spoken openly about Jake Paul's rise and the sacrifices behind it. He acknowledges that regardless of how critics feel, Paul deserves credit for managing to secure the fights he wants. In Atlas's view, this is not something that just happens. It takes persistence, investment, and a willingness to sacrifice stability for the spotlight. Paul has carved a space in boxing that nobody thought possible for a YouTuber-turned-fighter. Atlas also pointed out that Jake has genuinely improved his boxing ability. He has put in years of training with top coaches, sparred with professional fighters, and learned to handle himself in the ring. While purists may mock him, Atlas suggests the criticism often ignores the effort and results Paul has shown. Many fans dismiss him because of his background, but Atlas insists that Jake's journey is proof of how much he has invested to reach this point. That I give too much credit to Paul. Why? He's done a hell of a job to put himself in this position. He sold himself. He sold his dream. He took his dream. He took his idea. He put it out there and he made it happen. Give him credit for that. And he made it happen. And he took risk along the way. Yeah, he picked his spots and he's in the driver's seat. He gets to pick his spots. He's the one bringing the money. He's the one promoting. Yeah. He's the name. He made himself that, coming from where he came from with all his followers and the whole thing, and just, just the uniqueness of what he was doing. But he has learned along the way. He's not a top guy yet. No, I don't know that he ever will be. He didn't have that amateur background and the things that you usually need to be a top guy, but he has improved. He is a work in progress. He is a guy that you got to give him credit that he's respected the sport. He went out there, he's worked hard at it, and he's gotten himself into this position. Having said all of that, this might be a step too far. Now, when I say it, I try to be responsive. I've been in this game 50 years, so I know where not to step, where you could twist an ankle or worse, you could break a leg or fall down. When I say that with the understanding, too, that Joshua is coming off being knocked out. The team at Talk Sports reacted strongly to the news of Jake Paul vs.